LeBron James is playing back-to-back games at 40 years old. Luka Doncic is still trying to find his legs, and Austin Reaves is our third scoring option, which leads us to the question, can the Lakers legitimately contend for a championship? Let's talk about it. Before we get started, if you could do me a huge favor and drop a like on the video, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future Lakers and other sports content. All right, so it's been an interesting few games for the Los Angeles Lakers, right? We suffer back-to-back losses, one of them to the Utah Jazz, one of them to the Charlotte Hornets. So these are two of the worst teams in the NBA. We play it back-to-back, and last night we beat the Trailblazers, which is great. I mean, again, it's the Trailblazers, but we're getting back into the win column, which I think is important. No Luka Doncic last night, and it was a pretty close game. It was a tough, hard-fought, gutsy win. With games like this, typically it presents a problem for the Lakers and the backcourt specifically, or pretty much anyone who's handling the ball. Any team that has young, athletic, physical guards or just perimeter defenders in general typically are a tough matchup for the Lakers. Now, the difference is, for example, let's say last year, and Austin Reaves kind of pointed this out during his post-game interview. Games like this, when we're kind of in a back and forth or even when we're fighting from behind, last year, we typically lose those games. The Lakers didn't have the fortitude to kind of fight back and understand that, listen, we're still the Los Angeles Lakers. We're the better team. We can play physical too, and we can win. You can even argue that's kind of a similar trend for the beginning of the season. But last night's win, I don't think it's going to get enough credit. I think it's going to be overshadowed by a lot of things. There are a lot of narratives out there, which we're going to talk about. But I think Austin Reaves brought up a really good point. You know, typically when a team is a little overbearing, the Lakers kind of collapse. Okay, that's kind of how it's been going back to last year. But last night, Austin Reaves did an excellent job of staying strong with the ball, fighting back, kind of countering back with more physicality. And between him and LeBron James, they were able to carry the Lakers to a win, which was desperately needed. Speaking of LeBron James, listen, we got to talk about LeBron for at least a minute here, okay? What this man is doing at the age of 40 is insane. It's ridiculous. It's unprecedented. It's unlike anything we've ever seen. JJ Redick was being interviewed last night after the Trailblazer game, and you're seeing it all over the internet, right? All over Instagram, whatever, YouTube. And he had a lot of good things to say about LeBron. He said himself, he's like, the kids are going to say that I'm glazing him, right? Which is true. But at the same time, everything he said was spot on. LeBron James is playing back-to-back games. He's playing well over 30 minutes. And to have this type of mentality, to have this type of competitive edge when he is a billionaire, like, you understand, he's a billionaire. He's played in the NBA for 22 years. He already has 4 championships, 4 finals MVPs, whatever. He could retire today. And in my book, he is the greatest basketball player of all time. And again, if he retired today, he has a very strong case to be the greatest basketball player of all time. But yet he's still, on any given night, arguably the best player in the NBA, the hardest working player in the NBA, and the most competitive player in the NBA. It's insane. I can't even imagine where this Lakers franchise would be without LeBron James, if I'm being perfectly honest, because a lot of people like to forget where the Lakers were before we signed LeBron back in 2018, the 2018-2019 season. It wasn't good times. Okay, let's just say that. But anyway, shout out to LeBron, man. He finished with 40 points last night, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, efficient shooting. He did have a lot of turnovers. Okay, like that's straight up. He said it himself after the game, even though from a production standpoint, he was very strong. 11 turnovers is unacceptable, right? And he said it himself, like, listen, I got to be better. A lot of those, not a lot, but some of those were, he did get fouled, and they were, I don't know if they were missed calls, but they were not called, right? So I think the game last night was just a physical game, and the referees were like, you know what, we're just going to let you guys play. And thankfully, the Lakers were able to match their physicality and come out with a W. Now, the question that we've all been asking, right? Can the Lakers compete for a championship between Luka Doncic, LeBron James, and Austin Reaves? Can they lead us to the promised land? That's a tough one. It is, and it's still early, even though it's post All-Star break. It's still early. Luka Doncic has only played 3 games. He's been out for 6 weeks with a leg injury of all things. But I'm going to lead towards yes. I'm not saying we are definitively going to make it to the finals. I think that would be ridiculous to say that, especially at this point. But I will say this. I'm more confident that this Lakers team at peak can lead us back to the finals than I am that we're going to be a first-round exit, if that makes sense. I don't believe that with these three players leading the way, we're going to be kicked out of the first round. I don't care who we play against. Whether it's OKC, whether it's Denver, I don't care. I don't think this team is going to allow us to be kicked out of the first round. And obviously with JJ Redick at the helm. Why do I say that? Okay. So we all know what Luka can do. He's struggling right now. He went through a crazy situation with the whole AD trade, and obviously the Mavs just dumping on him, really just kind of throwing him under the bus. He's in a new place, new team. This is a big adjustment for him because he's still young. He's 25 years old. He hasn't really been through a situation like this before, so he's still making adjustments. Aside from that, there's a physical aspect. Okay, he had essentially a leg injury, right? So not only is it hard enough to kind of get back into shape, into rhythm when you've been out for 6 weeks, but one of the injuries that you were out from was a leg injury, or should I say a lower extremity injury. So he definitely has some work to do. He's got to get his conditioning back. He's got to get his rhythm back. He's just got to get his legs, okay? Once that happens, I personally don't believe that the chemistry is going to be an issue. I think things will naturally fall in line between Luka, Bron, and AR. These are 3 very smart players. They're good players. And I think Bron and AR understand that Luka at his peak is the best player on this team. And once he's back to that form, things will fall into place naturally, especially with JJ Redick at the helm, because I think he understands that situation too. And he's going to properly prepare this team to follow suit. It's all about the timing. It's all about the mental adjustment and the physical adjustment that Luka can make in a short period of time to get as acclimated to this team as possible and get refocused on the goal, which is to compete for a championship. With the combination of losing to the Utah Jazz, losing to the Charlotte Hornets, Luka struggles, right, offensively and defensively. It's making a huge attempt to confirm a lot of the narratives that were already being pushed in the midst of the Luka and AD trade, which is whether Luka and LeBron can work together, and losing Anthony Davis and gaining Luka Doncic, our defense is going to suffer, which is interesting. Okay, so let's look at some stats. Over the past 10 games, which again isn't a large sample size, but it's big enough to identify trends, which is why I like looking at the previous 10 games. In the past 10 games, the Lakers are 7-3. Our offensive rating is top 10 in the NBA, 117.2. And again, that's with Luka kind of still getting his legs back and struggling and trying to find his fit with the Lakers. Defensive rating, we're top 3 in the NBA at 107.9. Anything top 5 and up is considered elite in my book. So how is this possible? How are the Lakers an elite defense in the past 10 games, even though we lost Anthony Davis and now we have Luka Doncic? Well, one, again, I used the past 10 games to identify trends. And what this is telling me is that we are still capable of playing defense at a high level. Is this likely going to taper off? Yes. Luka Doncic didn't even play against the Trailblazers. And then before that, the Charlotte Hornets was his first game off of minutes restriction. So the more he plays At the end of the day, he's not a great defender. He's not a great defender. He'll never will be a great defender. I think he can improve defensively, but that's just not his strength. His strength has always been on the offensive end, rebounding, facilitating, and of course, scoring. So the more he plays, naturally, our defense will take a dip. However, I do believe that we have the roster and the coach to properly game plan to help Luka with his defensive deficiencies. You have guys like Jared Vanderbilt, Dorian Finney-Smith, Gabe Vincent, and if you're looking at the starting lineup, Rui has been a much better defensive rebounder. He's kind of kicked it up a notch. He's kicked it up in general on the defensive end. Rui he's not a great defender, but again, he has his moments where he can be serviceable. Austin Reaves, in my opinion, has always been a serviceable defender. I think he's definitely gotten better as he's gotten older and kind of more experienced in the league. But Austin Reaves is kind of seen as this traffic cone. I'm like, there's no way. We have Luka and we had D'Angelo Russell. Those guys were textbook liabilities on defense. Austin Reaves is not that. He is a competitive defender. And of course, you have LeBron James, who since the whole Luka trade has just been completely rejuvenated. He's playing even better than he was before the Luka trade, and he was already playing at a very high level. And he's definitely picked it up on the defensive end. You guys saw my last video. Previously, since we lost AD, LeBron has been sitting around a 102.9 defensive rating, which is really, really good. So I say that to say this. The Lakers' defensive, quote-unquote, struggles, I think, are blown way out of proportion. In the last 10 games, we're elite defensively. We're top 10 offensively, and that's with Luka's struggles. Peak Lakers, the Lakers that are just firing on all cylinders, they're in good form, ready to enter the playoffs at a high level. I see them as a top 5 or better offense with somewhere in that top 15 defense. Okay, ideally, hopefully top 10, but who knows? We'll see. That's what I see in terms of the Lakers reaching their peak. That top 10 to 15 defense, top 5 offense. And I believe that is a winning formula, like championship winning formula. A lot remains to be seen, but I do think that for Luka only having played 3 games, there are just a lot of wild takes, wild assumptions, and just some very negative thoughts on the Lakers. And I'm like, yo, you guys got to chill out. There's still time. It's not a lot of time, but there is still time. And whether we want to remember it or not, Luka Doncic is great. He is a great basketball player. He's one of the best in the league. And I believe it's just a matter of time before he gets acclimated to the Lakers, he gets comfortable, and he just makes the proper mental and physical adjustments where he's like, you know what? The trade is done. I'm a Laker now. It's time to win basketball games. I'm going to tell you right now, when we get that version of Luka, you guys are really going to see the Lakers hit another level. And we're going to be dangerous. So that's going to pretty much do it from you guys. Let me know what you think in the comments. You think I'm crazy? Think I'm tripping? Or do you kind of see where I'm coming from? It's a little too early to write off the Lakers. I think there's still a ceiling that is in place that we haven't reached yet. And do you agree with me? Do you think that the Lakers can be legit contenders when firing on all cylinders? Other than that, if you enjoyed the video, please go ahead and drop a like. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to follow me on my other platforms as well. I would greatly appreciate your support. And I'll catch you on the next video.